everybody tells stories. That's our life. Our life is telling stories, right? We're always telling stories. So why aren't we telling stories in the sales process? Why are we so strict in our presentation of what we do, right? The who, what, where, whens. That we're not selling ourselves in that. So here, Philip Pullman, who is an author, and he says, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. So I'm going to teach you guys how to put stories into your sales presentations. All right? All right, so the biggest part of the brain is what? Anybody know? I know because I did all this research on the brain, and I got to tell you, I could be a brain surgeon now. But the biggest part of the brain is the neocortex, and that nobody gets a chip on that one. And that neocortex is the memory predictability organ. Now I'm going to explain this to you because I had to read it 3 times. All right, here it is in lame English. When you turn on the radio in your car, and a song was playing, and you can recognize it by the first 3 beats, right? You know what it is. That is because when you first heard this song, your brain didn't hear it before, so now it is remembering things of it, right? So if they hear it again, they already know. They're telling you already know this song. And now our brain's not paying attention. Yeah? So stories, if I tell you a story, you're going to listen to every word I said because you don't know the story, right? That's really important, you guys. So we want to tell stories. Like if we get to the point where we're always saying, oh, and our food's so wonderful and our staff is great, and it goes right over their head because they've heard that. Somebody else said it, and then they're also thinking, well, it should be. That's what you do for a living, right? So that's why this memory sequence is so important because stories are unpredictable. Okay, so you're going to say, well, what kind of stories am I going to tell? All right, I'll tell you. There are stories to connect, stories to differentiate, and stories to close. Okay, so if we can do your personal stories, these are your real personal stories. These are personal stories of how you connect. And that could be the personal story of how you got into this business. That's interesting. You know, and everybody has their own story of how they got into this business, right? And people want to hear that. Or your key staff stories. I mean, you telling a story, you know, maybe one of your key staff went through, you know, cancer and came back and, you know, whatever it is. You need to bring these stories in because these are something that you don't have to make up. These are real things. So when things are real, it comes from the heart. And then you don't have to think, oh, I got to memorize this story. No, these are real stories. What you do have to do is think about what they are and see how are they going to do the connection. And how the company creation stories. I mean, that's huge. How the company, we all started little. You know, you see these big companies that are doing, what did the guy say at opening, $63 million? Did everybody hear that? Yeah, well, he didn't start at $63 million. He saw how he started. So that was interesting, right? So telling those type of stories and how your company started, how you started, your key things, that is connection. And when you can make a connection, that is massive, massive. All right, so stories to why can't I say that word? Differentiate, because I speak so fast, that's why. All right, insight stories, success stories. You want to tell success stories. So the thing is, with all of these stories, I think there's 7 of them, you want to jot them down and say, okay, when I connect with somebody, I really want to talk about how the company was created, and these are the key points. So it's used to coming out of your mouth, right? Success stories. I mean, that's wonderful. Stories to close, the value story, which we will go over, and the teaching story. You want to teach clients certain things. So we need to educate, right? All right. So I'm going to tell you a little case study. All right. These are 2 guys. I'm going to read it to you because this is their story. Martin and James were bored of the industrial brewed lagers and stuffy ales that dominated the UK market, beer market. They decided the best way to fix this undesirable predicament was to brew their own. So in April 2007, Brewdog was born. They were both only 24 at the time. They leased a building in Fraserburgh, got some scary bank loans, spent all of their money on stainless steel, and started making some hardcore craft beers. They brewed tiny batches, filled bottles by hand, and sold their beers at local markets and out of the back of their beat up old van. The biggest mission when they set up Brewdog was to make other people as passionate about great craft beer as they are. And that is still their biggest mission today. That's a pretty cool story. You can see these guys that, you saw them when they first started. They were a little rough. They wanted to drink beer, these two guys, right? So now let's draw it down. Okay, so Martin and James tell their story around 4 key points. Okay, they encountered a problem. What was the problem? They couldn't find good. Right, exactly. Industrial brewed lagers and stuffy ales are boring. Yuck, right? All right. They have a spark of insight. How'd they fix this problem? They make their own. Right. What if they could fix it? They'll make their own. Right. They start their own brewery in brewing in. No. What? Small batches, tiny little batches, right? Right? Tiny batches. And they are now on a mission to make more people passionate about beer. You guys remembered the story because it was a story. Now, if I just said, hey, there's just 2 guys and their beer is just unbelievable and they're in the UK, that's it, right? But I got to tell you, after reading this, and I randomly, I don't even drink beer. And I got to tell you, I'd buy their beer and I'd buy it at a higher price because I love their story. It's such a great story. And when I told my daughter about this, who does drink beer, she loved this story. And I said, would you buy this as if this was substantially a lot more money? She said, totally. Because it's somebody that you feel like they're giving back to the environment. You feel these things. Their website's so cool. Okay, so, all right, so on their website, they tell the story in this, which I thought was brilliant, because people we know our story and we think our story is just okay, but people really like stories. They like to hear this stuff. So they did that. They start with 2 employees and 1 dog. They had 2 shareholders and 1,000 brewed beers, right? Right. I'm posing for this because every time you guys take pictures of me, I have my mouth open. See, just like that. Don't do that. I'm posing. I'm going to be. All right, get out of here.
Fabulous. That's a keeper right there.
Yeah. All right. So that was in 2007. Then in 2012, 135 employees and that same dog. So it's cute. You want to go through their story with them, right? 2017, 1,000 employees, 70,000 shareholders. Okay, so this is the first thing on their website, you guys. That's the first thing you see. We bleed craft beer. Don't you love it? You can see the personality. So not only on our websites are we really? Okay, so yeah, enough already. I mean, please, I'm vain. I know it, but yeah. But y'all, you here witnessing it though. All right, so I'm saying, okay, this is on their websites, and yes, you have probably salespeople. You have no control of your websites, but you could certainly bring these stories to the ground, bring them out of the ground, because these are great, great stories. All right, moving on. All right, so I'm just going to give you these key things because we're here for 3 hours, but I'm telling you, it goes by very, very fast, and I want to make sure that you learn some things, so I'm just going to touch on this. What is the story I want to tell? How will I deliver the story? What kind of client participation do I want them or need? Like, do I want them crying? Do I want them laughing? What do I want? How will the client participate? Their participation affect the story over time? And how much is based on real world versus fictional world? Now, I teach my people, keep it real world. Don't embellish. You'll forget the embellishments, and it's just, you'll get yourself in trouble. So keep it real. All right, so that's storytelling. All right, so if anybody needs help in storytelling, there's this great quiz that you could take online, which is free and complimentary. And here is the website. But this will be on your deck, so you guys can get that there. But it is interesting. It teaches you what type of storyteller you are and how you can change it or add on to it, which is good. Okay. The 3 C's of great writing. You're going to see this. You'll have it. Keep it.